Rasch at the UCSB Ombuds office. I'm an associate ombuds here, and I'm going to talk about email, text, and chat communication in this brief video, and some of the challenges that can arise as we use these electronic modes of communication. So, email, text, and chat, written forms of electronic communication. And as ombuds, we deal with communication issues, problems, conflicts, questions, and these are coming up more and more frequently with these different modes of communication, which we are increasingly moving toward in the workplace, especially as we work more remotely. One of the issues that arises, it is harder to communicate subtleties. So a lot of our communication is based on nonverbal cues. Much of this happens unconsciously and automatically, that we pick up information and respond to it. And there's much less of that with written communication over email, text, and chat. So we have to fill in the blanks ourselves sometimes, or we'll come to conclusions that are incorrect, or assumptions that are wrong. There may be more time spent clarifying misunderstandings and confusion, those kinds of things, because we only have the words to go by and not some of the other methods of obtaining information and communication that we get face to face. These modes of communication are great because you can just send a message and you don't have to wait, like with a telephone, to get an answer. But then there's question of the response. When is it going to happen? What is the mutual understanding about that? Is there one? And if you don't receive a response in a timely way, what kind of conclusions might you come to? Or you might feel that someone doesn't care or isn't interested in what you've got to say. So again, assumptions can be created there that can create some difficult feelings or questions. A lot of jokes are made on email, text, and chat, but they can be misconstrued, taken the wrong way. What seems real funny to us as we send it might not be received the same way, and it's worthwhile being careful about that. Also, if we copy other people into a conversation that we have, how is that done? Is it done with the understanding and agreement of the other parties? If not, it can lead, especially if it's something that kind of bumps up the chain or includes a number of people, can lead to intensifying or creating feelings of ill will, resentment. And it's good to keep in mind that any written communication is a permanent record, so it's there in cyberspace, and what might feel very gratifying to say in the heat of the moment when you're feeling something may come back to haunt you, and it's good to be thoughtful about that. Some people find it easier to be a bit more harsh or tough, dismissive when they're writing something as opposed to when they're talking to someone face to face. And you might, again, just notice that in others or think about it for yourself. And apologies might be less effective over these mediums because the greater context of being able to look into someone's eyes and understand their sincerity is missing. So what are some of the pitfalls, some of the things people do that create difficulties? Writing something that has an intense emotional charge to it. And often these will come out and be received in a way that doesn't settle issues, but tends to inflame them. Reading a message too hastily, not taking time, jumping to conclusions, reacting before you fully understand what's being communicated to you. And again, with written communications, you don't have that opportunity to sort of, in the moment, double check your understanding and sort of read the signs to know what it is. And we may jump to conclusions, especially if there's some history with someone else. If you're responding to an email that maybe has triggered you or raises a question or a problem that upsets you, if you respond while you're still in an emotionally activated state, you might write the message in a way that you don't intend it, or it may not be as clear as possible, or it may inflame the situation. Sometimes people feel they have to really explain themselves, especially if some question about their own capability or integrity or something like that is raised. In email, to defend themselves with very long messages. And it's these text or chat or email are not good mediums for long messages generally, especially if it's an important topic. If you find yourself writing a very long message, it may be a sign that you should move to a different mode of communication. Pretty straightforward, all caps or foul language. People tend to respond poorly to that. We talked a little bit already about unnecessary or inflammatory copying of messages. Also, keep in mind, if you're only communicating with someone else when there's a problem, it would be a good idea to expand communication about other issues that are not problems. Maintain the relationship in a more positive or neutral way so that when bumps in the road come up, they'll be taken in stride. And again, jumping to conclusions about others' motives. I see this all the time with email. People fill in the blanks. You might be right, you may not be. But often people jump to conclusions and hold those beliefs very strongly, which then leads to mistrust and feeling that other people's motives are really wrong, bad, and destructive, when it may not be that. It may be something else entirely. Important to check. And remote work is a way to kind of become more distant from colleagues, especially those you might have some challenges with, and avoiding maybe having crucial conversations that need to take place. All right, a few good practices. As I mentioned earlier, maintaining an ongoing connection with your work colleagues. It's harder to do when we're working remotely, but it's important. And you want to maintain those relationships in a positive way as much as possible. If you have an important message, wait. Get input. Let yourself settle down, or just come back and read it again. I can't tell you how many times I've been so grateful when I've done this. Pick something up that I hadn't realized was in there. It's either a mistake or maybe something that has a bit more emotional charge to it than is really beneficial for the conversation. And if you get a message that kind of triggers you or throws you, pause, reread it, come back to it a bit later. Make sure you're kind of reading it in an objective way before responding, so that you're sure you either understand or you know where your questions are about that message. And you can always reflect it back. If there's something that you don't understand, before accusing someone, maybe sending a message back, did you mean this? I wasn't sure about that. And clarify your understanding before responding. If you find you're going back and forth more than a couple or three times with some tension or disagreement or misunderstanding, move to another mode. It could be phone, video, or best of all, face-to-face if the tensions escalate. These are more effective mediums for resolving conflicts. And even if your motives were pure and someone takes it the wrong way, and no harm in apologizing and trying to set that conversation back in a positive tone. And that's a powerful way to do it. And at the end of a conversation, especially a conversation that's had some bumps in it or took some effort to kind of get to the conclusion, express appreciation to the other party. and feel it for yourself. You're just having gone through the process and gotten to a better place with it. All right. And remember that if situations about communication or interpersonal issues or any other concern that has to do with your life here at UCSB, you may contact the Ombuds office and call us and schedule to speak to one of the Ombuds on staff, and we'd be more than happy to help you out. So long for now.